Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Glad you're with us on a Wednesday morning. Hope your day is off to a good start and up and running. And by running, I mean, like, is your car running in the frigid entire, Midwest and East Coast of the country?
Cold snap that's been going on. It's supposed to be a big snowstorm tomorrow.
We're getting some frozen precipitation right now in Florida.
That really is. Yeah. All the local media people here lose their minds. With this is their, as you mentioned, their Super Bowl.
Is their Super Bowl, their World Series, their NCAA Final Four all rolled into one when you get a winter storm.
This is it for them. It gets no better than when it's a shame because they're talking about bad things that are going to happen. As we love talking about all the good games that are coming up and all the different sports and all the great things that are happening. They're just living for the fact that you're going to be snowed in for days.
And they name all the storms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Winter Storm Brady.
Yeah, it's their joy.
It's the segment. It goes alphabetically. Obviously, we had the A storm. I don't remember what it was, but it's just, this will be Winter Storm Brady hitting us, and it's again.
You have meetings about that. You have meeting, or you just have a list. Do you think they have a meeting to get lists, or you just have a list right now that's just okay? Another storm, boom, it goes to this.
Well, I think there's actually two because if I remember correctly, a few years ago there was a winter storm list that came, from like the National Weather Center, NOAA, whatever, and then it was different. Here in where we live in the Hartford area, they had a different
name.
They had a different name because they thought it was a different storm, another storm. So I think there's one that comes out as the official, but I guess by region, if you feel like you have more storms that qualify, they can come through and you can give it your own name.
There's too much giddiness in the weather people world.
There was one a few years ago, and this is like 10 years ago. I can't remember, and we were on the NOAA site, NOAA.gov, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, whatever.
Yeah,
and it was like, literally, if you go outside, this storm could kill you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm staying in there.
Yeah, I'm going to stay inside. Don't need to know that.
Just going to stay in. It was high winds and snow up to. We had that storm a few years ago, Nemo. You remember that one? It's like it snowed 3 feet over.
Nemo was a movie.
Yes, it was also a horrible storm.
Okay.
And I was stuck in my house for the entire time. It was brutal. But anyway, so that's what everyone's bracing for.
Yes.
We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And a reminder, we will be on the road live this Monday from Gate 2 at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the College Football National Championship game. I did not know we were at Gate 2. So
I did not either.
New thing.
It's the best gate there.
So apparently it is. We'll be there. Our bus will be there, our brand new bus. We're excited about that. And we will certainly be in the zone for that. Brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. So we're excited about that. It's our first road trip. And we will get to that and all that stuff in a minute because Kirk Herbstreit will join us. But first, let's get to what's trending. Isaiah Thomas is trending for the first time this year. Scored 17 points in his Cavs debut in Tuesday's win over Portland, but is going to sit out tonight's game when Cleveland faces the Celtics in Boston on ESPN.
Yeah, off the bench this time around. When he was on the court, LeBron James was off the court. They were plus 18. He did very well. Obviously, he needs to work into getting to know this team, working with this team, and the big to me, the big question is how does he feel when he gets up today? How much treatment will it take to get him to feel basically normal like he felt before the game last night? And that's it right now, is getting him that to need less and less the next day and feel more like himself after each game till he's, as 100% as he's going to be for the rest of the year. And the most important thing, getting in a mesh with the other players on the court and being ready for the playoffs.
Again, missed the first 36 with that hip injury. They're going to monitor his minutes going forward, but it will be LeBron and Kyrie for the second time this year. They faced off week 1 in Boston, in Cleveland. The Cavs won that one. This one tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN, will be on up in Boston. How about the Vegas Golden Knights of the NHL? Give it up for them. They won their 8th straight game on Tuesday, 3-0 over the Preds. They become the only major North American pro sports franchise to win 8 straight games at any point during their inaugural season over the last 40 years.
Yeah, it's amazing.
40 seasons.
You go with, since it's the Denver Nuggets, won 8 straight in October, in October 22nd and November 9th back in 1976, their first NBA season. And how well are they doing? Well, they're 7-0 this year against the last 4 teams standing from last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. And they're 17-2-1 at home, best point percentage at home this season. They're 17-1-0 when scoring first this season. I mean, that's incredible because we know football's going there soon, and we're breaking down the two of them like, okay, there's 8 football games there, more of an event type of a thing where people coming in from out of town. Hockey a little different, 41 home games as opposed to 8. You know, how will that go over? But and I honestly don't know about the crowd. Hembo, we can find that out, how the crowds have been there. But
he's still working on the math for money in the last segment.
We don't get Hembo much, so when we get him, we just put a lot of stuff on him. But from an on-ice X's and O perspective, boy, oh boy, well, how well are they doing right now?
Well, not only that, they have 56 points. That's
only Tampa Bay has more.
Only Tampa Bay has more. They have done an amazing job. And you're right, to that point, Vegas, it won't be much of a home ice or home field advantage. Very much a home field advantage.
Really is. Good for
home
them.
Ice advantage for them, 17-2-1. So congratulations. And we'll finish off. What's trending with this? Well, something changed January 1st in the state of California, and Mike Tyson is trying to take advantage of that. Iron Mike. Maybe he's now marijuana Mike?
A little more mellow Mike.
Mellow Mike breaks ground on the California Marijuana Ranch, according to theblast.com. The former heavyweight champ will try his hand in the marijuana industry.
Yeah, it's because in California, recreational pot law went into effect 12:01 a.m. on Monday. A lot of ribbon cutting at some dispensaries around there. Someone's got to grow that pot. Yeah. So Mike Tyson and his crew, well, they're going to do it. They're just the guys to do it. And listen, this is a business thing, man. I mean, this is going to happen in other states where they're going to legalize this, and people getting in front of that and saying, okay, if they're going to sell it, someone has to grow it and distribute it. So, well, let's jump in on that, and that's what Mike Tyson has done.
It'll be a cannabis resort 110 miles north of Los Angeles. A resort.
I would say it's
you will relax.
Every room has a lava lamp.
There you go. Well, that's certainly one way to look at it.
We're so old.
Peter Max drawings, is that what you're going with?
Are the millennials
next?
Going, what's a lava lamp now?
I think
Seriously?
Every time the millennials listen to the show, they say, what is it? We're trying to figure that out as well. Save us from ourselves. Let's bring in college football analyst Kirk Herbstreit, brought to you by Allstate, official protector of college football fans. Are you in good hands? And Herbie, you were certainly in good hands watching that game.
Wow.
The numbers for that semifinal between Oklahoma and Georgia were ridiculous. Over 27 million people watched it. What was it like to be there and call that game? It had to be one of the best games you'd ever been through.
Yeah, it was incredible. That game always, when you grew up in the Midwest, the Rose Bowl is always a unique place, and to be able to have that matchup unfold the way it did right in front of our eyes, it was what you hope for. I mean, we had really a tough time with the playoff. We haven't had great games other than the Ohio State-Alabama game, and this was finally a matchup that we got, and it was competitive, and the way it went in the second half, it was just such a roller coaster ride. I mean, anything literally could happen. The momentum swings were as big as I've ever seen in a big game. Just when you think it looked like, okay, looks like Georgia has this game in control, here comes Oklahoma back, and obviously the game unfolded the way it did. But it was a lot of fun. Chris and I had a lot of fun doing it, and Tom and Maria, and hope for another great championship game.
Yeah, I'm sure you as a former quarterback enjoyed it. Me as a former D lineman, while it was entertaining, felt a lot for both defenses as they were giving up so many points in this. And, in breaking down the game, as it normally is, it can be both of these, but I'd like you to put a higher percentage to one. More credit to the way Georgia came back and adjusted in the second half, or less credit to Oklahoma for maybe not putting the ball in the hands enough of Baker Mayfield and letting him throw downfield as much. So where do you kind of weigh both sides of those?
I definitely give Georgia the credit. and I'll go back and look at the film and maybe change my mind, but it's just been, for me, it's been a little bit of a whirlwind since the game has been over. But from what I remember, I remember the kickoff before the half, right, with 5 or 6 seconds left, and obviously they were trying to squib kick it and just not give them a chance for a big return, and it backfired. I mean, he hit the right of the Georgia player, and Georgia, get smart play to just field it and get down and save as much time as they could, and really good job by Kirby not going for a Hail Mary there. Some people probably would have taken that shot. Instead, he rolls out and has just enough time there with 1 second left to at least try a field goal, and the kid hits a career long, and just like that, you're thinking, wow, I mean, it's 31-14, and everything's going Oklahoma's way, to 31-17, but to me, I even said at the time, I was like, that's a different feel. Not only down 2 touchdowns, it just sounds better when you're talking to your team in the locker room at halftime. Hey, guys, we get a stop and we get the ball back to Jake Fromm. In this running game, you never know. We get within 1 score. I mean, it's a ball game, and that's exactly what happened. And then after that, I mean, you guys watched it. The defensive line, everybody talks about the adjustments that Georgia must have made. And they did make some adjustments. They got more aggressive. They came after Baker more. But, man, I think that the line of scrimmage just went in the favor of Georgia. Georgia just got nasty, got physical, and kind of beat up Oklahoma at the line of scrimmage. And I think that was kind of the turning point as much as anything, was the kickoff and then the way, the intensity that Georgia played with in the second half. But with all that being said, don't forget, Baker and Oklahoma still came back. They had the scoop and score by Stephen Parker. They had the touchdown pass by Baker. If there's anything, as I go back in my thoughts, it was with 55 seconds left. Georgia scores. I made a comment. Did they score too quickly? 3 timeouts for Baker Mayfield. I thought they would have been a little bit more aggressive with their play calling with the 55 seconds left and 3 timeouts. And then I thought in overtime, I thought both teams in the first overtime were kind of conservative, and I thought Oklahoma continued to be a little conservative based on their own standard. I thought we might see a little bit more go at Georgia as opposed to what we saw. Then the reverse handoff to a receiver, it was physical, not quick. That play really surprised me too, and that ended up being their third down play that ultimately set up the field goal that would be blocked.
Well, yeah, Kirk, for me, first of all, going back to the kick, thankfully it worked because now Rodrigo Blankenship is a household name and he needs to be.
Yes.
With the look that he was rocking, there's no clearly about that. But the two 3-and-outs to start the half for the Georgia defense, to your point, I think really changed the game because Oklahoma had done whatever they wanted. But, on this idea of whether Oklahoma lost it or Georgia won it, hey, I'm squarely in the camp that Georgia won that for 2 reasons. Yeah. One, they blocked that field goal, okay? I mean, it could have been real easy for them to just kick the field goal and then, you never know what's going to happen. But they denied Oklahoma in overtime, and then they didn't need a field goal. To me, they did just enough to win the game more than Oklahoma did to lose the game.
And one thing I want to add, guys, because I don't know if this has not been talked about, but we're lucky to have Rogers Redding, who's he leads all the officials. He's supervisor of all the officials. And Dave Kataya, who's a former official out of the Pac-12, and Dave's with us every week. And because you just don't see a lot of college overtimes, maybe not everybody's familiar with the rules, but they do the coin toss, right? At overtime. And okay, I think Oklahoma won.
Yeah.
So you want the ball? You want the ball? Or you want to defer? We're going to defer. We want to go second with offense. Okay, so Oklahoma has a choice. Which end do you want to play at? We're going to play down here. Georgia does. We're going to play down here. Georgia said, okay. So they moved down. If you didn't realize at home watching, the end that they decided to go to was clearly the Georgia end of the stadium. So they play it out. Both kick a field goal. Now, I wasn't aware of this personally. So now you go over to Oklahoma, or you go to Georgia. Do you want the ball to start the second half, or do you want to kick off, or do you want to play on defense? And they said, we're going to go on defense. Well, the official, I don't know if he did this, they're supposed to go to Oklahoma. Okay, which end of the field do you want to play on? I was surprised that they played both ends of the field in the Georgia end. Oklahoma had the opportunity to say, okay, well, we want to play down there, but they didn't. I have no idea if they were asked. I have no idea if they said, yeah, we want to play down there. I have no idea, but I did find it interesting that they went into the loudest part of that stadium when they had the option, where that field goal got blocked. They did have the option to go to the other end of the field. I wanted to clarify it again with Rogers and Dave. They said, think about it like it's a, it's the start of the game. It's a coin toss, and every overtime is kind of like the start of the second half. Which end of the field do you want? We will take the ball. Both teams have an option of what they want to do, and I just found that interesting that Oklahoma did not switch ends of the field.
I didn't even realize that. That's a very interesting point. I want to ask you one on overtime. I don't want to get lost in it because I want to ask you about Bama as well and Clemson. I personally do not like the college overtime. The NFL, I don't like the fact that both teams don't get the ball. I think that's ridiculous, and they need to change that in the NFL as well.
Push it back a little bit.
Yeah. In college, to me, there's no punts involved, and you're automatically given field goal position. So at the very least, I'd like to see an offense have to work for a first down or two just to get in field goal position. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. I've always been a fan of both teams getting the ball. It's like I've become a huge NHL fan, and as exciting as a shootout can be, it's kind of sad in a bigger game. Even though in the playoffs they play it out,
right.
It's sad to see a game end in a shootout after you've watched them play the game. I'd like to see it pushed back. I'd like to see it maybe start at the 40. Have to work, get a first down or two to be able to actually try to have a chance at points. But I do like the concept. I kind of call it extra innings. It's top of the 10th, bottom of the 10th kind of feel to it. I like it. I like the idea, but I do wish they would maybe push the ball back a little bit. I'm with you on that for sure.
Well, Kirk Herbstreit with us, and we're talking about working for a first down. That's going to be the case for Georgia now as they go up against Alabama. They will be working for those first downs when you have what Raekwon and Dayron did in that win over Clemson. Look, that as much as that was all about offense, Herbie, at the Rose Bowl, this was really all about two amazing defenses. And you see 24-6. Well, how good was Clemson's defense? Well, basically, two of those scores were set up by Alabama's defense. I mean, that looked as good as the Alabama defense we've been accustomed to in 2015 and 2016 in that game.
Yeah, the thing that I think stood out to me anyway in that game was there was a debate at the end of this, the way there always is when early December and the rankings came out. And in this case, it happened to be, should Alabama, a second SEC team, be in, or should Ohio State go in ahead of them? And of course, Alabama went. There were a lot of debates and a lot of things written, a lot of things said. Clearly, I don't know if Nick Saban used it, but I'm sure Scott Cochran, their strength coach, did. Clearly, Alabama used that as some energy and fuel to get them ready. In fact, Tony Brown, one of their defensive backs, made some comments about some things that Dabo Swinney had said. And I think he had put Ohio State at 4 in the final coaches poll and Alabama at 5. They used that. They just looked angry. They looked like they were out to prove a point. The defense was finally healthy. And I don't know how anybody objectively could have watched that game and said, oh, clearly Alabama's not one of the top 4 teams. There was no debate. They went out there and played the game. They deserve a lot of credit for going out there and getting healthy. And with Jeremy Pruitt becoming the Tennessee head coach, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But this team going out, took care of business, and they just played with an energy. And isn't it rare to watch an Alabama Nick Saban team play as almost an underdog mentality? That's how they looked to me. They looked like they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. They looked like they were playing to prove a point, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and that led the way. And now here we go with Alabama and Georgia. I know it's 2 teams from the SEC. I know there are a lot of people, based on the things that I've read, a lot of people are frustrated that it's 2 SEC teams, that top to bottom. It's not a great year in the SEC, but again, as an objective viewpoint, it's very hard for me to look at Georgia and Alabama regardless of what their conference has done, and not say that these two are very deserving of being in a position that they're in. And it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be a fun game to watch. It's going to be very different from what we saw in the Rose Bowl. And the other thing is, it's a quick turnaround. I want to see who's going to be able to put themselves in a position to be able to go just a week later with the travel that's involved with Georgia and the physicality and the emotion that they had to put in to that game. It'd be fun to see how they are able to turn it around. And they're playing in their backyard right there in Atlanta. And it's gonna be a wild scene, that's for sure.
Last quick thought here, Herbie, on because we have the game to be played, is UCF. A lot being made. They beat Auburn.
Yeah.
What they're talking about. Remember, the football committee put them 12th. We had the simulated BCS standings printed up as well. They would have them 9th, where this committee had them 12th. Just in the minute we have left, your thought on UCF and what they did and what you think should have happened.
I think it's a shame to have to get involved in, it's, and then I get it. I think it's a magical year. I mean, it was, I do a show with Herbie's postseason. I pick images of the year or plays of the year or moments of the year. My moment of the year was Scott Frost with his team after he beat Memphis in the AAC championship, just to see his genuine emotion and what he felt for his players. I loved that, and the way his players loved him. And then he goes to Nebraska, and he handled it so first class and stayed on and wanted to finish with the players and ended up going on to beat Auburn. And what an incredible memory and celebration. And that's what that should be about to me for UCF is lifetime memory. Always have 2017. And if they want to call themselves kind of a mythical national champion, for their own school, that's great. But as far as getting involved in should they have been in the playoff or not, it's very difficult when you play the schedule that some of the group of five play, unless you have a heavyweight or two in the non-conference. Like Boise State next year. I'll predict right now, Boise State, they play Oklahoma State in the non-conference. If they beat Oklahoma State and they start to get on fire, you'll see Boise State make their way up into the top 10, top 8, top 6 because of that Oklahoma State game in Stillwater. UCF really just never had that moment to be able to do that. I'm not saying they wouldn't have beaten somebody, but that's how you get the notoriety and the attention from the pollsters and the committee. And so, great year. They beat a great team in Auburn, and I think they should celebrate a fantastic year. And I understand why their fans would be upset about it, but maybe that's something that the committee, as they move forward and evaluating teams, they'll have even more respect now for the group of five because of what UCF has been able to do this year.
Well, certainly they are celebrating it. Danny White's thinking they won the national championship. You know what? They may not have gotten the eyes of the pollsters, but I think UCF got the eyes, and Scott Frost specifically got the eyes of people in college football for doing things the right way.
Right.
And the way he made that transition and staying back and winning and wanting to get that season across the finish line. Herbie, we appreciate it. We look forward to next weekend, or next Monday, rather. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for being with
Herbie.
us.
You got it, guys. Take care.
As we continue, presented by Progressive Insurance, all phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. I'm going to fix that for John. I think it's going to happen.
I do as well.
I understand why he said the way he said it, but if they offer him the job, he's going to take it.
Listen, you don't know how somebody's going to answer questions like this. John's name comes up every year for a head coaching job, and we've asked him every year. And a lot of times it's, I'm happy where I am, not thinking about that. And this year, I remember when we talked to him when it first started coming out, he said, never say never. So it kind of raised some eyebrows of, maybe this is the time he's looking to go back. And this morning, he was about as honest as could be as far as this is concerned, basically saying, if he's get offered this job, he's going to take this job. And talked about other candidates being looked at. I have no idea how many other candidates they're looking at. I mean, from the technical standpoint, there is a Rooney Rule they're supposed to be going through, correct?
Yes.
I mean, as far as, that is concerned. But once they go through, as John said, all their candidates, and that's why I asked him, if Mark Davis were to call you and offer you a job, would you be the next head coach? He said there's a good chance, which you're right means he's going to be the next coach, I think, and I think you believe as well, and I think most people think the next coach of the Oakland Raiders. And then you did ask him flat out about the rumor, or not the rumors, the
the reports that he would have ownership.
That he would get as ownership as part of the deal, and he absolutely denied that, said that is not part of it at all. He's going to get paid a boatload of cash, there's no doubt about that, and more power to anybody getting all the money they can. But he said that part of it, the ownership part of it, was not true.
But again, he will be calling the Titans-Chiefs game for us on ESPN simulcast on ABC. So we'll see what happens there. By the way, this news just came in about the college championship game coming up between Alabama and Georgia, and more linebacker issues. Anthony Jennings, the linebacker, just posted this on Twitter. I played my last game, but I will be back stronger than ever next season. He recovers from knee surgery. So, look, that
hurts him.
That hurts some things that Nick Saban has been talking about. Their linebacking core has been decimated this year at times, and Anthony Jennings now, one of those linebackers, will not be there in the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, they've been nailed all year at the linebacker position. Injuries all year. Dylan Moses, Sean Deion Hamilton are both currently out with season-ending knee injuries. Dylan Moses was their 5-star true freshman who ended up playing some because of all the injuries that they've had. They've gone through so many injuries at that position, and that was the one. I know they were, and maybe they had more information to this going in. I'm sure Alabama fans who didn't were really keeping their fingers crossed of what that MRI was going to show, but now we know. Yet another linebacker down for the Crimson Tide.
And we'll see how that plays out going forward. Again, Monday, we will be there in Atlanta for the College Football National Championship game. By the way, we asked this of Hembo a couple of segments ago, and he's able to come through for us. We're looking at this day in history, January 3rd.
Yes.
Things that have happened. In 1920, the Yankees sold Babe Ruth, or the Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees for $125,000. Yes. In today's dollars, $1.5 million. Still a bargain.
Still a drop in the bucket.
This one is the most interesting, though. In 1973, the Columbia Broadcasting System, otherwise known as CBS, sold the Yankees to a consortium headed by Tampa's George Steinbrenner for $10 million. That would be worth $56 million today.
Yeah, but
Forbes estimates the Yankees are worth $3.7 billion.
Yeah. Well, it worked out pretty well.
Well, it's like real estate.
Yeah.
They're not making any more of it. Mm-hmm. So hold on to it. Eventually the land will always go up. So that is an amazing thing.
Yes, it is.
That they're worth $3.7 billion today, and in today's dollars, that $10 million would have parlay into $56 million.
Well played.
Thank you, sir. So anyway, something else that's going on here, the 28 modern era finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or actually all the finalists are out there. We have 15 modern era finalists, which will eventually go down to 10, then they'll vote to get the initial classes. We got 2 senior finalists and 1 contributor finalist. And it's interesting because one of those players, again, on the list is Terrell Owens. Now, Randy Moss is going in. Let's not kid ourselves. Randy Moss, let me put it this way. I would be stunned beyond belief if Randy Moss is not a first ballot Hall of Famer for the things he was able to do in the NFL. Look, there are probably going to be some writers that are going to be angry with him at the way he handled himself at times. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is about what you do on the field. That's it. Those are the only qualifications. Did you excel on the field?
What is interesting, I will say, is among the 25 modern-era wide receivers elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, only 5 went in their first year of eligibility.
Yep.
5. And the latest was 2010. That was Jerry Rice.
Who was the number one by far in everybody.
Before that, it was 95 and Steve Largent. Before that, you're going back to 1983 with Paul Warfield, 78 Lance Allworth, and 73 Raymond Berry. So you've had guys like Tim Brown waiting 6 years, Marvin Harrison 3 years, Andre Reed 9 years, Chris Carter 6 years, Art Monk 8 years, Stallworth 10 years, Lynn Swann 14 years. So it is not happened too often where you go in that first year. I think I think Tio should have been in already.
Well, that's
the thing now. So now we have Randy Moss.
So let's assume that Randy Moss is getting in. I think we both agree that's going to happen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now, because of what you just alluded to, and it would be only the 6th time ever that a wide receiver in the first ballot gets in, does the committee want to keep him as a standalone because of what that means being a first ballot wide receiver to go into the Hall of Fame in your very first try? And what does that do for someone like Terrell Owens? Just so people know, Terrell Owens, whether you love him or hate him, 8th all-time in receptions, receiving yards 2nd behind only Jerry Rice. Now, next year, Larry Fitzgerald might be able to pass him if he comes back and play. He's 3rd in receiving touchdowns. So he has the credentials. Whether you liked him or not, and he was a very divisive personality, his resume on the field warrants being in the Hall of Fame. Do you think they're going to put in Randy Moss and Terrell Owens in the same year?
No, I do not.
Yeah.
I think Randy Moss goes in. I don't think T.O. goes in. And I know, even our own Bill Polian had said, I think Hall of Famers are for people who make their teams better, not who detracted from them. What did Owens do to make his team better?
Well, I would say 2nd in receiving yards and 3rd in receiving touchdowns.
Listen, and I love Bill Polian. He's one of the greatest ever, but I disagree with that. I mean, that certainly is part of it, what kind of a teammate you are and how do you do your team. But the Hall of Famers are how great of a player you are as well. And T.O. is one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play in the game. It is a joke from the writers that he is not already in the Hall of Fame. A joke. And for these writers to sit there and with the high and mighty, we're going to decide we didn't like the way you acted, so we're going to keep you out of the Hall of Fame for a while, when it's an abomination for the fact that he is a Hall of Fame wide receiver who should be in the Hall of Fame. That said, I think Randy Moss gets in, and I think the high and mighty writers and voters do their thing again and say, we're going to keep you on the outside, T.O. looking in. He'll eventually get in, but he's going to wait. And it has been a position where guys have had to wait. Isaac Bruce is on the finalist list right now as well. He's not going to get in this year. I think at some point he does. But that line that forms at the wide receiver position, that is real. There is no doubt about that.
Well, here's part of the argument, and I'm with you. Just I want to be clear. I think he should be in. There's no question to me that Terrell Owens was. It's the eye test. Is a catch a catch? Is it a fumble or not a fumble? Is he a Hall of Famer or not a Hall of Famer? Terrell Owens to me was all of that. Even though he was sometimes as divisive as sand in a salad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just not. There's a lot of things that drove you crazy. But to that point, here's what some more things that Bill Polian said. What did Owens do to make his teams better? He put up a lot of numbers. Bill Parcells said that he was a disruptive force. Jerry Jones, who's probably one of the most easygoing people when it comes to disruptive players, got rid of him. I got texts from people in Philadelphia responding to the campaign saying this guy was a cancer and destroyed our football team. I get all of that, but it's all selective, is it not? I mean, Bill Parcells says he was a disruptive force. Didn't Parcells work with Lawrence Taylor?
Yeah.
Didn't Lawrence Taylor have a bunch of issues that made him somewhat disrupt? And he walked into the Hall of Fame.
Yes, he did.
Walked into the Hall of Fame. So it all depends on how you look at certain things. And I get it that sometimes he rubbed you the wrong way, and there's no question. He may not admit it, but I think in his mind he probably would say, yeah, maybe I should have done some things a little differently. But to me, that doesn't measure up against the production you saw on the field.
I completely agree. I think it's now
he's there.
And how about this? If you could choose one to have for your team, would it be Randy Moss or T.O.? Not in the Hall of Fame, but to play on your team.
Well, I would go with Randy Moss.
I would go with Randy Moss
because I think he had more of the instant home run. You know, the mailbox. I'm open. Hit me.
I agree. I would go. And
again, not detracting from what T.O. was.
This is splitting hairs. This is not saying you don't want T.O. For the production he had, but. So I do think Randy Moss gets in. I don't think T.O. gets in. I do think he eventually gets in, but he is an absolute Hall of Famer.
And look, to that point, several teams got rid of Randy Moss. I mean, the Vikings decided to move on.
Sure did.
Then he went to the Raiders. That didn't work out.
He wasn't without issue as well.
Correct.
So that's a thought process as well. Will these voters say, we're going to teach you a lesson too, Randy, and you're not. We don't feel.
I think Randy's.
We don't feel you deserve to be in the Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, Paul Warfield, Lance Allworth, Raymond Berry, category of first time. I have no idea. I don't know what's in these guys' minds who run this thing and vote for this
eventually
thing.
He worked his way out of Bill Belichick's favor in New England.
You know what is amazing, though, that I found out is the voting, how they tell the people they're getting in. When we were in Houston for the Super Bowl last year, and that's where the players find out.
Yep.
I happened to be in the hotel, and I ran into Tony Baselli, who was up again this year for the list. And I saw him, and we were chatting in the hallway. We were staying in the same hotel. And I asked him, because I sure as hell never knew.
Right.
What happens? What's the process here? He said, for an hour, I think it was from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, they had to be in their room in their hotel room.
Just sitting there waiting?
Just waiting. And David Baker would come and
Hall of Fame president
would come knock on your door.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, if nobody came to your door in an hour, you weren't in. If somebody knocked on your door, you were in. And later on,
tough.
I agree. Later on that day, I happened to get in an elevator. Who got on? David Baker and a camera crew.
There you go.
And I was like, David, what floor are you going to?
Exactly.
And Baselli was on my floor,
yeah.
and when he didn't get off on my floor, I was like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, and I felt kind of bad for Tony at that point.
By the way, David Baker, one of the largest human beings you will ever meet.
Yeah, well, I dealt with him a lot when he was running the Arena League.
Football
Holy
League.
smokes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Big man.
By the way, again, there's no character clause in the Pro Football Hall of Fame like there is in baseball.
Yeah.
It's simply about what were you on the field. Coming up, 2 coaches back next season. You might be surprised by both. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2.
Golic and Wingo, presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. Starting off the year with a little romance is easy at 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for just $29.99, you get another dozen absolutely free. You want to order? Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
We are Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. And a couple of coaches are coming back, and for a variety of reasons that may surprise you. Mm-hmm. First of all, Marvin Lewis, it was widely reported, again, by people here, that they thought he was going to step away after the 15th season with the Cincinnati Bengals. But he now has a 2-year contract extension and is going to be back for at least 2 more years to try and win that elusive first playoff game. They last won a playoff game, I think, in 1990, that year when they beat, I think they beat the Oilers that year. And then they lost to the Raiders in the game where Bo Jackson ruined his hip. Avascular necrosis became a thing that people were aware of. So it's somewhat surprising, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, because from what we were hearing, Marvin was maybe looking to go somewhere else, and then the record and not making the playoffs again, but he gets a 2-year contract.
I'm surprised at this, and this is one of the classic, let's talk about how much you like the guy and respect the guy, and then throw out the word but, But
however,
but I don't understand this one. I mean, I am all for giving a guy a long chance, more than the 4 years, and making a change every few years. I don't think it does anybody any good. Give it some time, but then there's, I gave it time and nothing happened. 15 years, 7 playoffs, 0 wins in the playoffs. And I know there are those that are saying, well, maybe they looked at some of the other candidates and they didn't find one that particularly appealed to them, so they wanted to stay with what they had. Well, what you have, let's be honest, is mediocrity, right?
Yep.
That's what you have with the team and the way it's been going. So you don't know what else is out there unless you try something else. And at some point, you get to the point where you say, you know what? We got to try something else.
Yeah.
And if the Bengals aren't there, I don't know what franchise will ever get there.
If Mike Brown isn't there, that's the overriding thing, because
right.
He likes familiarity. That's a big part of it.
And I get it. And for the most part, I'm with that as well. But even at some point, there's a line for that. So the responsibility there to say, okay, we need to try something else. It may not work right away, but do we keep going down this road? I can't believe there are many people in Cincinnati that are happy with this one.
Well, they're going to do it for 2 more years.
Yeah.
That much we know.
I'm very surprised at this one. I am.
And how about this one in the college ranks? Bill Snyder loves him some Manhattan, Kansas. He's 78 years old and will be back for a 27th year at Kansas State.
It's incredible. Mike did a Kansas State game, and he said it's pretty amazing when you're driving in on the road named after the coach, and you pass a statue of the coach, and then the coach is there coaching the team. Yeah. And he's there again for his 27th year. Just really amazing.
Well, just to put this in, I love you. I'm not doing this at 78. I can tell you that right now.
Or I should say the stadium, I think, is on the statue. I think the stadium.
Whatever. There's a lot of Bill Snyder stuff in Manhattan.
Yeah, you know who's running the program there. Let me put it that way, yeah.
Put it in some sort of perspective. Bill Snyder was born in the same month, October of 1939, as Lee Harvey Oswald. He's actually 11 days older than Lee Harvey Oswald would have been had Lee Harvey survived to this day. That's what we're talking about here.
Talk about a guy who just loves it.
He must love it.
Just loves
and you know what? If that is for him, good for him.
Absolutely right.
You're not going to be here at 78, right? No. I'm trying to make it to 78. That's the goal.
You got no shot.
More than likely. Well, you see what I eat for breakfast every morning.
No shot.
Probably not even with those vegetables in a tablet that you're giving me that are probably helping a little bit, but not enough.
It's a great way to eat veggies.
It is the best way to eat veggies. All right, coming up, Isaiah Thomas is back, but he won't play in round 2 between the Cavs and the Celts tonight on ESPN. We'll talk to Brian Windhorst about what is the future and his plan in Cleveland. That's next. Stay with us.